Welcome to the Heroic Investing Show. As first responders, we risk our lives every day. Our financial security is under attack. Our pensions are in a state of emergency. A single on-duty incident can alter or erase our earning potential instantly and forever. We are the heroes of society. We are self-reliant and we need to take care of our own financial future. The Heroic Investing Show is our toolkit of business and investing tactics on our mission to financial freedom.
Hello and welcome to episode 134 of the Heroic Investing Show, a podcast for first responders, members of the military, veterans, and really anyone looking to improve their financial future, their financial and personal lives, and gain some freedom back for their time or with their time. We teach America's heroes how to build passive income, build their startup business, and safely grow wealth through real estate and other alternative investments. We help current and prior first responders put protections and systems in place to enable them to build a life where they can focus on their passion, that service or product that they are uniquely gifted to share with the rest of the world. My name is Gary Pinkerton, and I'm humbled and extremely proud to co-host this show that hopefully you find helpful and inspiring with Jason Hartman, a good friend and someone I consider a mentor on real estate and life in general. So last episode, right, leading into a great discussion that Jason and I had a few months ago, I talked about some great upcoming episodes, and I alluded to one that I wasn't willing to stick my neck out there and say I was actually going to get, but we did, and I moved him right to the beginning of the list, and that's who you get to hear from today. I'm incredibly excited to bring to you a 95-year-old World War II multiple decorated veteran Marine who had action in the South Pacific. And if you know anything about the slogging that the Marines did, island hopping, losing half their people in each battle, it seemed. Tremendously scary time for those young individuals. This individual is Mr. Larry Klairmont, and Larry hails from Chicago, Illinois, where he's built up an enormous real estate business after starting from scratch and selling off the largest dry cleaning business in Chicago. And at the time, Chicago was one of the largest, still is one of the larger cities, but was one of the top 2 or 3 in the country. And so his dry cleaning business with over 500 non-union employees was one of the biggest in the country as well. He sold that off, and he talks on our podcast here a little bit about what led him to starting real estate after that. And he's also an incredible historic automobile aficionado. So, think about this. We have the ability to hear from an individual who was born in the Great Depression. There just aren't that many of those on the earth anymore. And Mr. Klairmont is not only coherent and has a great conversation with me, I believe the gentleman could beat me in a 500-yard dash. He is full of I won't use the phrase that I grew up with on the farm, but he's full of vinegar. He's sharp as a tack and still at the helm of a tremendously large, successful, multi-million-dollar real estate business that he runs with his 2 sons and actually now a 3rd generation, some of their grandkids. His car collection, too, I can't wait to get out there and see his museum and his car collection. He's got cars from people like the late, great Jackie Gleason. He's got Shaq O'Neal's car. He's got the World War I Ace, one and only car built for that war veteran. He's got, he named so many that were just tremendous. So, and if you want to get a really good read on this, there's a Chicago Tribune article on Larry Klairmont. It's called, let me read the top here. So, Meet Larry Klairmont, a Chicago collector, as interesting as his 319 cars. So this guy could teach us a tremendous lot about a lot of different topics. And he does that somewhat in our call here. But just keep in perspective, again, that this gentleman was 5 years old in the Great Depression. And he grew up without a father. And it's that moxie that keeps this young at heart man at least, going strong in his mid-90s. And he is a testament to what we at Paradigm Life and many of my mentors talk about. And that's this idea that retirement, the concept of retiring, and retiring again means to wither away and withdraw from society. It is not good for humans. I personally, in my non-medical opinion, believe that it has a lot to do with the rise of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and other degenerative mental conditions. And it's about not keeping yourself active, not keeping yourself mentally active. Lest I go off on a historic tangent, I will stop there. But I don't think there's, my gut tells me there's no coincidence here between a man who gets up every day to run a company in his 90s, a gentleman that at age 88 decides that he's going to create one of the largest car museums in the world. He's got a fiance, and she's a wonderful lady who joins us on the podcast for a few moments. People like that with visions of the future and many, many things they still need to do don't die off. I mean, that's oversimplification. Sickness gets to all of us, but the human spirit, the thing that caused people like Larry Klairmont as a teenager to march forward in the face of Japanese machine gun fire, beach after beach after beach, and resulted in a gentleman who has 2 silver stars, a bronze star, and 2 purple hearts, to come back to America and create multiple enormous companies, have multiple awards for best operating company loved by his employees, a company that has people who work for him for more than 30 plus years. None of those things are coincidences. He'll teach us a lot about work ethic and about caring for others and about things that make you successful. And I think that I may never have a better episode than this. It's probably obvious in my tone and in my just awe at having had the opportunity to talk to this great gentleman, that it caused me to do the promo for it right at the right after the recording of our conversation and get it out to all of you as soon as I possibly can. I really hope you enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed talking to this tremendous gentleman. There's a lot we can learn from our elders, especially those that inspire us to the level that Larry Klairmont does. So my hat is off to this tremendous patriot and World War II hero, and I hope you all really, really enjoy this as I did. Thanks so much, and I'll be back with you next episode. So everyone, thank you again for joining us for another Heroic Investing podcast. I have with me a gentleman that it will take me a very long time to beat. I mentioned before his biography. It's just truly incredible. Everyone, please help me in welcoming Mr. Larry Klairmont. And Larry, thank you for giving time to my audience.
My pleasure to do it for you.
Yes, sir. So you hail from Chicago, Illinois, grew up in the Great Depression, and participated in World War II, saw a lot of action. Could you explain just a little bit for the audience how long you were in during World War II and where you participated?
I enlisted in the Marine Corps at the age of 16. I served in the United States Marine Corps in the South Pacific.
South Pacific. Tough battles down there. Thank you for your service. I'll just say it for the audience. We're fortunate to have an opportunity to talk. So when you got back, you started with your dry cleaning company, but fairly quickly transitioned to real estate. And was that out of necessity, just buying the buildings initially for your operating business?
Well, it's kind of a long story how I evolved from the dry cleaning business to real estate. Very briefly, after 4 or 5 years, I became the largest dry cleaner in the city of Chicago, at over 110 stores. And what I learned from that was what constitutes a good location. I sold my company and was looking around for something town that I live in, Illinois. And my former wife and I went to the theater, and after the theater, I said, "Well, it's ice cream." And the ice cream parlor was about 2 blocks away. And what do you do on a nice summer night? In 1986, there was no television, and we walked over towards the ice cream store. And what do? You look in the windows, and in the window was a real estate office right next to the. And I saw a brochure on the building. I looked at the location, And having understood what makes a good location from my former dry cleaning business, I had bought this particular building.
So location, extremely important, but there was also a lot of hard work and work ethic that you probably learned as a young guy growing up with a single parent mom. Your fiance at the time, when I was reading an article published in the Chicago Tribune, mentioned that, and I think your wife now, but mentioned that you've always been a hard worker, but you learned at a young age to do some things you have to do them right, you have to do them yourself. Is that still a lesson, one of your primary lessons?
Absolutely. If I make up my mind that I'm going to do something and I think it's right, one can talk me out of it. I use my own judgment.
Right.
It hasn't worked out too bad for me.
And no, I would say it has not. One of my mentors comments that, a quality of a successful individual, a successful business owner and entrepreneur is someone who makes good decisions quickly and is slow to change those decisions, where their gut tells them where the right answer is, and then they stick with it even though it gets tough at times.
Correct.
What are some of the pieces of advice maybe you would offer to members of the military that are considering going out on their own in a business, whether it be real estate or otherwise?
Well, having been a veteran, one of the things that you must do to be successful, in my opinion, is to be frank and to be honest. And when you give your word and you shake hands, it doesn't have to be in writing. And you should conduct yourself accordingly. The biggest factor in any industry or any investment is fear. And fear itself should not be a conduit of making your decisions.
Right. So move forward in spite of it if the information and your gut tells you that it's an appropriate decision, I think, if I'm understanding.
Yes, correct.
Yes, sir. What about when you had your dry cleaning business? I'm guessing you had quite a few employees. Did you have a lot more in the dry cleaning than in real estate?
I had over 500 employees, non-union,
Yeah,
and no partners.
Wow. You learned a lot about leading people, I would imagine.
You got that right.
One of the things that I've learned in my companies and on my ship is that good intentions and treating people with common decency and respect goes quite a long ways.
It sure does. In fact, in my real estate company, we have employees that have been with us in excess of 30 years. And what constitutes any successful business is the quality and nature of your employees. When they start with us, we always tell them, we're not married to each other. We'll try it out. If you don't like us, you can leave with no obligation. And if we don't like you, there's no obligation to discharge you also.
Right. Sounds like a great, appropriate, fair agreement.
Right. And it's worked out well for us.
That's all. And so how many people in your real estate company now?
We have close to 125 to 150 people altogether.
Yeah, so you significantly downsized when you sold that other company, and you've built up along the way with different types of people, but still managing a company with humans is always a challenge, but it's also pretty gratifying, I've learned.
Correct.
You have family. I saw both of your sons work hand in hand there with you in the company. That must be, I'm sure that brings challenges as well, but it must be great having people carry on the legacy of your business.
Well, I have, fortunately, I have two boys with me. My oldest son, Alfred, is in his mid-60s and has been with me for over 30 years.
Nice.
What's really, I think, remarkable between the two of us is that we have never had an argument. Never.
Wow.
And although that he sometimes feels that he is right and I overrule him, he gets overruled. And that's the same thing as to what's happening today. We're also fortunate in having a couple of grandchildren with us in the company. It's worked out quite well for them and quite well for us. The other thing is that I'm in my early 90s now, and I'm not as active as I used to be. And my oldest son, Alfred, who's a dedicated hard worker and loves the company, takes care of all the day-to-day problems.
Yeah.
I'm just more, at this time, more, let's say, consultant rather than an actual operator, although I have not retired.
That's awesome. Well, I think the reason that you're still going strong in your 90s and many other people aren't is physically because you didn't retire. You haven't slowed down physically or with your mind, obviously.
It's fortunate that I'm not as active physically as I once was, but I am intensely interested in the day-to-day operations of our real estate company.
Yeah, I can read that in everything I've heard about your company and read. So speaking as somebody who is not ready to slow down too much yet, I have to ask you about this because I'm a huge fan of automobiles, new and old. And so just a couple of years ago, you created an enormous museum with some of the most rare cars in the country. And it's still going strong, I imagine, right?
It's a hobby, and we are really fortunate. It's one of the things that I am crazy about is classic and antique cars, along with my fiancée, Joyce Overlander, who works with me on a day-to-day basis on the car collection. We currently have 400 to 500 cars total, and about 300-odd cars in a 150,000 square foot building. We kind of ship the cars around, we buy new cars, and we have one of the 5 outstanding car collections of antique and classic cars, probably in the United States.
Wow.
It takes about 4 hours to really tour the whole place. And it's really quite a facility, which I'm proud of.
When I read a couple of articles, just to share with the audience, Shaq O'Neal's car and Jackie Gleason's car, those were beautiful automobiles. Those are pretty neat. What other historic cars, not necessarily...
Mae West's car.
Mae West, okay. Do you have any one-of-a-kind cars? I mean, those were all custom adjusted.
I was fortunate enough recently to acquire former President Eisenhower's personal Cadillac, and we did not restore it. It's in the same condition as when he died, and it even has a drinking fountain in the glove box.
Wow.
He liked fresh water. We have that car on display. We have R. Kelly's car. We also have a famous car owned by Eddie Rickenbacker, who was the World War I airplane ace. He shot down 20-odd German airplanes. He was president of Eastern Airlines, and he had a special car made for himself when he decided to go into the automobile business. And the car is a magnificent single-passenger car called the Rickenbacker. Unfortunately, the company folded up in about 2 years because of the economy. That's a famous person. We also have the famous car called the Tucker. And Mr. Tucker started out in Chicago.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons I'm very anxious to acquire a Tucker, because it is now only in the whole world, only 50 Tuckers left, and they are really collectible. It was the car of the time. It had a rear engine. It had 4-wheel disc brakes. In the center of the hood, when you turn the wheel, the headlight turned along with the car, and everybody wanted a Tucker. This is a whole long story about that. I could spend a half an hour with you talking about the Tucker.
Yes, sir. Well, I remember the movie. Well about Tucker and his run-ins with the big 3 automakers and how it really caused the loss of a great company.
That's the whole story, correct. We also have a DeLorean, which
nice.
I bought brand new. I've had it for over 20 years, and I bought this car brand new, and we have many one-owner cars. You'll see nothing like it in the whole world.
Oh, my gosh. Has Jay Leno been to see your car collection?
No, he has not been there, but I think he would like. It was very interesting. Months ago in California, I bought a 1902 production Harley Davidson motorcycle, a real unusual vehicle, and it was in a couple of movies. Jay called and he said, "I'd love to have that motorcycle in my show." I said, "Well, I just received it from California. The freight was $300, and if you'd like to put that motorcycle in your show, you can ship it back to California. It'll be $300, And then if you want to ship it back to me in Chicago, it's another $300. So for a total of $600 and no profit from me, to let you have the car. I'm still waiting to hear from him. That's Jay Leno.
Well, Mr. Klairmont, I'm certainly sensitive to your time and how busy I'm sure you are. What, maybe back on the business or anything else, what have we not asked that you want to share with a bunch of veterans and first responders?
Well, I'm a former Marine, and it's my pleasure to open up my museum to former Marines. And we have a special room dedicated to possibly having platoon leaders or recruiters from the Marine Corps have a lecture and explain to the Marine Corps and what a wonderful institution it is. One of the greatest honors that I ever had was on my 85th birthday. I received from the 4-star Commandant of the Marine Corps wishing me a happy 85th birthday and thanking me. I didn't even know who the hell he was. After all these years,
Sure.
50 years, I don't know. And on my next birthday, we had a new Commandant, First Guard General, on same type of a letter thanking me for my service.
Wow.
And what an honor for the Marine Corps.
Are those hanging in the museum?
Yes. I wanted to tell you because he's too modest. But, he has 2 Purple Hearts, 2 Silver Stars, and 1 Bronze Star.
Yes, ma'am. He's amazing.
Yes, because he was only a young kid when all of this took place.
Yeah.
He was out of the service when he was 20. So it was between the ages of 16 and 20 all this happened.
Wow. Thank you so much for adding that. He's amazing. And for supporting.
Okay.
Larry, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Okay.
I will funnel all the Marines I can your way, and I'm going to come there and shake your hand and next time I'm in Chicago.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. Be sure to check out the show's specific website and our general website, hartmanmedia.com, for appropriate disclaimers and terms of service. Remember that guest opinions are their own, and if you require specific legal or tax advice or advice in any other specialized area, please consult an appropriate professional. And we also very much appreciate you reviewing the show. Please go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio or whatever platform you're using and write a review for the show. We would very much appreciate that. And be sure to make it official and subscribe so you do not miss any episodes. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.